Okay, just when we thought the dumbass sports junkies couldn't get any dumber, they managed to stoop down to a whole new level of stupid. So basically what we have here is we have the extremely moronic Stephen A. Smith of ESPN talking to a couple of other idiotic sportscasters on that pathetic hack of a channel, ESPN, talking about the Trayvon Martin thing. And there's a lot of people, a lot of dumbass athletes that came out in support of Trayvon Martin, even though Trayvon Martin was the bad guy. A lot of stupid comments left underneath the video by the person that posted this garbage on YouTube. And we're going to dissect it here. We're going to take a second or two here to dissect it, and we're going to explain.
Someone make sense of this verdict for me now, please. Don't worry, I'll wait. How do I explain this to my young boys?
Well, I'll tell you how you explain it to your boys there, dumbass. You simply tell them to keep their hands to themselves. Trayvon Martin, he punched Zimmerman in the face because Zimmerman was suspicious of him, punching him in the nose, breaking his nose, causing him to bleed. So honestly, to answer that stupid dumbass basketball player's questions, you tell your stupid kids to keep their hands to themselves. And in order for me to make sense of this to you, I pretty much just did. I explained that Trayvon Martin is a degenerate, and you need to get your head straight.
Steph Curry wrote, watched a lot of the case, thought manslaughter was a definite, thinking about everyone involved, especially the Martin family.
All right, well let's unpack that ignorant statement here for a moment. First he says watched a lot of the case. Then he goes on to say thought manslaughter was a definite. Okay, moron, if you would have actually watched the case like you claim you did, then you wouldn't think manslaughter is a, quote, definite. And then he says thinking about everyone involved, especially the Martin family. Why would you think about the Martin family? They're not the real victims here. They just did a terrible job raising their son. They didn't teach him right from wrong, and so he ended up dead because of it. So I honestly don't know where the hell your head is at. I think you need to get your facts straight.
Chris Paul tweeted, wow, prayers out to the Martin family.
Wow, Chris Paul, you're a freaking idiot for making that comment. Anyone ever tell you that, sir?
Just a few of the messages from the professional athletes who followed the case. So we turn to Stephen A. and I ask you this. Why does this case strike a chord with so many athletes?
It strikes a chord with so many athletes because a vast majority of professional athletes in today's day and age are African-American men.
And, of course, this jerk goes right into the whole race baiting thing, basically saying that, you know, it bothers these athletes because most of them are black. And this guy's really irresponsible for making such a disgraceful comment like that. The fact of the matter is, Stephen A. Smith, you stupid jerk, that Trayvon Martin was shot and killed in self-defense. George Zimmerman wanted to defend his life against Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin, as I said before, hit him in the face, breaking his nose, causing it to bleed, knocking him over onto the pavement, hitting him in the face repeatedly on top of him, and Zimmerman was having his head smacked into the pavement, for crying out loud. He was just trying to get away. Eventually, through the struggle, Zimmerman's firearm was revealed, and Trayvon Martin saw it and attempted to grab for it, and that's when Zimmerman shot him in self-defense.
African-American men who are well aware from a historical perspective of the plight we face, particularly that of a younger generation. There's just no doubt about it.
Well, the plight that you actually face there, moron, is the fact that people like you, the younger African-American generation, they seem to have poor self-control. That's the plight that they face. And they have a hard time keeping their hands off of people. We know that they like to play the athletics and the football and the damn basketball and like to be aggressive. That's why they're in sports, because they're violent individuals. But Sports don't the athletics and the sports don't take up all of their time, so they have to find a way to fulfill their violent needs in some other way. And that's what Trayvon Martin was doing. He was picking a fight with somebody, and he he paid the price for it. Finally, Trayvon Martin got what he deserved. So I think you should pull your head out of your ass, Stephen. Just stick to talking about sports, because talking about sports doesn't require any sort of knowledge, brain, or intellect. So just stick to what you're good at, talking about a mindless, stupid game.
To sit here and say that I'm disgusted with the verdict, I think I speak for a lot of people within the African-American community. When the verdict came down, it was stunning, it was depressing, it was hurtful. You found yourself questioning, my Lord, how could this possibly happen?
Well, Stephen, the reason you feel that way is because you don't know what really happened. You haven't properly informed yourself of the situation between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, and you refuse to look at the facts like so many other people just like yourself. People within the African American community, not just them, but people of all races are a lot of them are being idiots about this because they're not looking at the facts. Particularly the young generation are being idiots. They're not looking at the facts of the case. That's why you feel the way you do, sir.
A 17-year-old kid who is unarmed.
The 17-year-old was not unarmed, you jackass. He wasn't unarmed. He had his fists that he was pounding into George Zimmerman's face, and the back of George Zimmerman's head was being knocked against the concrete on the sidewalk. That's not what you would call unarmed 17-year-old. Trayvon Martin was a thug who played football, I might add, another thug-like athlete who had the thug mentality and the thug build. He was about 5'8" and weighed about 150 to 60 pounds approximately. He was a big guy. He played football, and here he is pounding George Zimmerman's face into the pavement. And you're trying to say he's unarmed? If you have your fists and you're knocking somebody's head against the pavement as well as their face, okay, the person is not unarmed at that point. At that point, you're actually committing a felony, Stephen. Jumping on top of somebody and punching them repeatedly while they're on the pavement begging for help is a felony. Okay, Trayvon Martin, if he would have lived, could have been thrown in prison for that. You idiot, moron, son of a bitch. You are so stupid. Just stick to talking about sports. He said that he was unarmed. The kid was not unarmed. He was punching Zimmerman in the face, knocking his head against the concrete. Zimmerman had the injuries on his head to prove it. My God. This is the world we live in, folks. ESPN lecturing the rest of us on how to live our lives, telling us what right from wrong is, when they have no idea themselves. Trayvon Martin, a 17-year-old young man, was not, I repeat, not unarmed. He was armed with his fists and the pavement of the sidewalk that he used to smash George Zimmerman's head against the concrete. He repeatedly beat him. A technique called ground and pound, which is a form of
ends up shot dead. We know who the person is who pulled the trigger, and nothing has happened.
I mean, listen to what a stooge this guy is. He said nothing has happened. Okay, first of all, Zimmerman, the police showed up. They questioned Zimmerman. Zimmerman's story checks out. It was self-defense. Then the left-wing pigs still weren't satisfied. They created a stink. They bitched and moaned. Zimmerman was taken into custody, and we had an entire trial for it. The George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin trial. Maybe you've heard of it, Stephen. Where George Zimmerman was rightfully found not guilty. He's an innocent man, for crying out loud. He was just trying to defend himself from your thug-like people like Trayvon Martin, who, thank God, isn't able to walk the streets anymore. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, we know who pulled the trigger. He pulled the trigger in self-defense, you jackass. Just because he has a gun doesn't mean he's the bad guy. Stop watching so many damn movies. Stop letting the media manipulate your thinking. Stop letting them brainwash you, you weak-minded idiot. You're letting the media brainwash you. The news, the movies, the Hollywood, the music, you're letting them brainwash you into thinking something that isn't true, Stephen. You and so many other people that are a lot younger than you that are just as dumb, though, if not dumber, than you. I know that's hard to believe, but there are some stupid people out there today who believe this crap. They're letting the media manipulate them into thinking something that's not true. It's crazy. I'm done listening to this jerk. He's an idiot. That just shows you how dumb this guy is. Never watch ESPN. It's a waste of time.